Boîte Noire Radio.
Hello. Bonjour tout le monde, bonjour à tous. Again, thank you so much for returning viewers. This is another episode of Boîte Noire Radio. I am one of your hosts, Alistair. I'm co-hosted by...
Beefy, your favorite shit-talking squirrel friend.
All right, and today we have an awesome host. Before I introduce her, awesome co-host, but before I introduce her, I have to tell you my tagline, our tagline. Come here with an open mind, because we talk about anything and everything, and sometimes it's very difficult to filter ourselves because it's a live show. So,
very true.
Give us the margin of error of offending you, if that makes any sense. Right, Beefy?
Yeah, otherwise you can run away, join the circus, become a crazy clown in Canada, and, you know, let's start a riot.
Right.
Start a riot. Oh, we're going to get taken down.
Important disclaimer, though. So, as you all know, I'm a parent. For those who don't know, I'm a parent. And so right now, my daughter is in her playpen, safe and secure, but my spouse is still working. So I will have to take a small little intermission where you just see me get up to make sure she's still okay and well.
That's totally fine. Yeah, when you said your daughter was going to be on, I was picturing you holding her in your arms. So when you appeared in Olympia, I figured she was like...
snack.
She was like strapped down beneath the desk or something, or like in chains in the corner.
No, she's not chained in the corner. But no, she's eating a little snack. She loves to read books, so she's reading a book, and you know, the dog is around, and I have my antennas an alert, so if she's screaming, I will be able to hear it. But just so you know, my head is here, but my spirit is upstairs. All right. So that being said, Brenda, hi.
Hello. How are you doing? Other than children and snacks.
I'm doing perfectly well. Thank you so much. So, Brenda, apologies.
This is the first time you two are meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the first time we meet. Yes.
Alistair, meet Brenda from Horrifying History. She is a Boîte Noire alumni. I know you wouldn't know that.
Yeah, it's the allergy season. Hi, Brenda. What's your tag? What's your tag on what's your name tag? Is it Brenda?
Yes.
Okay.
We have yes, it is.
Okay.
I do on Horrifying History. I do introduce myself as Brenda. I don't give my last name, but I'm not shy about it either.
Oh, the internet. The dangers of the internet. The dangers of the internet.
Exactly.
So, what is your specialty? I know it sounds very odd and weird. I don't know what other words to use. So, Horrifying History. So you focus on the history of the world, or specific countries, specific regions that are horrifying. Elaborate that for us.
Well, originally, it's actually, we've been around for 4 years now. I can't believe it's been 4 years.
Nice.
But originally, I started listening to podcasts, and I was listening to my girlfriend's podcast, and she was just kind of starting out with her brother and asked me to be on and tell a spooky story because they were a spooky-based podcast. And when I finished, her brother, who is a voice actor, he's like, "You got a great voice." And it's like listening to a kindergarten teacher telling you a story, but it's like the worst story imaginable. But you can't help but not listen. And as soon as he said that, that's where the idea of Horrifying History came into my brain. And we talk about all history, anything history, but the darker, the better. And it could be paranormal, it could be true crime, you name it. If it's dark and creepy, we're talking about it.
Oh, wow.
But you're Canada-based, so you cover a lot of Canadian stories, like the one we shall talk about today.
Well, for you guys, I had to go and tell a Canadiana story. And the reason I had to do that is because everyone thinks we're so nice. And we always say please and thank you. And that's not true. You're going to find out in a few minutes. It's not true. We are nice, just not all the time.
Not all the time. Oh, humans. Aren't we such an awesome dilemma?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so Beefy, while you ramp our audience up, my daughter is screaming.
Hang on a sec. Go check on your daughter. Brenda, how has your week been this past week?
Well, I can't complain. It's been beautiful here. Absolutely beautiful. Now, I know my grass is gonna look very bad this summer because I think we're gonna have a drought, but the point of it is, I, in Canada, am out riding my e-bike all the time, which is unheard of here in March.
Yeah.
So no complaints. No
Yeah, we're having the same streak of pretty beautiful weather here in New England too. So no
Yeah, no
very often
complaints.
here.
Well, last year, at this point, we had about 13 feet of snow in totality. Um,
I
and this
remember when I was a kid, they had there was an April Fool's storm that like everybody. I even remember seeing the newspaper in like giant letters said April Fools, and then just a picture of a giant nor'easter. So it's definitely out of the norm for it to be as nice as it is, and I think that's pretty country. Like then I guess I can't say countrywide because you're in Canada, but it's warmer than it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. And I'm not complaining. Not at
Yeah,
all.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Like I went to walk my dog before this. I was wearing a hoodie. That's unheard of for, March 14th here in Canada.
Yeah, I went and got my haircut earlier, and I wore just like a light jacket, and I didn't even wear it home. I just carried it back.
I actually yesterday forgot my jacket at my chiropractor's office because it was so warm. And I'm getting in my car, and all of a sudden you see him running out, and he's like, you need this. I'm like, I have car keys. I would have seen you in 2 weeks and grabbed it anyway.
All right, let's check in with our Bot Noirians here. Joins us in the house. Alicia, Charlotte. Alicia's apparently a Patreon member. She got a sticker. You know what she's talking about?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes. I'm seeing this here. Patreon member, I got my sticker. Yay. Well, I got some news for you, Alicia B. It's already been posted at our fan club, and we're actually going to be moving our websites in May. So it's going to allow us to do so many really, really cool things for our fan club, like private RRS feeds. We're going to have a Discord server, all
Nice.
this lovely, cool stuff to get even more spooky. So I'm looking forward to it.
So you're moving off of Patreon?
I am moving off Patreon. I did let those guys know. I think it was yesterday. But there's still going to be there's going to be so much new merch. I already have it all
So you're
designed,
going
ready to go.
host
Yeah.
content independently on your own website.
Correct. And it's going to
Ambitious.
be a one-stop shop for horrifying history. You are going
Nice.
to have fan club. You're having merch. You're, like I said, Discord server. There's going to be a blog there. It's going to be a lot of cool stuff for you guys. And I really kind of held off for a while. I was having everything on Patreon. I love Patreon, but it with each individual website, you have certain limitations. I just wanted to
Yeah.
have no limitations anymore and give the most I
Patreon
can.
is probably the best in that regard. Like YouTube is really restrictive, and
Yeah.
the podcasting platforms are definitely a little more liberating. But what I like about Patreon is there's literally like no copyright claims. You can literally post whatever you want on there. But if you're gonna host your own content on your website, that's like the dream. If you can direct people over there, that's the way to do it.
And that's kind of what I wanted to do, because again, 4 years ago when I started, there wasn't a lot of websites that were so interactive before Make It Easy. You had to kind of pick and choose where you were going to go, but now with the podcasting world, it's changed so much in 4 years, and
Yeah.
the popularity of it is so strong that it really kind of forced developers to do some really cool things and encompass everything. So I'm just looking really forward to having the one-stop shop of horrifying history in one spot, so you can get spooky 24 hours a day. And
Right.
I love the fact that finally I can have my own private RRS feed that includes not just the shows, but I do a lot of episodes just for Patreon. So that way they can listen to it in their own podcast provider all at once. I'm just looking forward to the streamline, but I really don't like the backlog of work I have to do because of it. But as you know, like, it takes a lot. But the reality of it is, I think the fans are going to love it.
When I finally got on like Apple and Spotify, we had probably 8 months worth of backlog. So rather than just sitting down and putting it all on there, I'll upload our newest episode and I'll do like 2 episodes from the backlog. So every week there's like 3 episodes dropping. But yeah, it's definitely an undertaking. People don't realize how much of a commitment some of this. It's so much work, this content creation stuff, and I still don't have enough time to do everything I want to do.
And the thing is, people almost think that it's just like, well, how can I word it right without being offensive to everybody? They just think it's easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. There's so many different things you have to think about. And that's why some of the episodes I made specifically for Patreon that I just brought to the new spot today is talks about building your own podcast. Because do you get a lot of that? I get a lot of questions like that. How easy is it to be a podcaster? How easy is it to do this? Well, there's a lot of things things you have to think about, like branding, for example, is very
Yeah.
important, and things like that. So I actually do have those episodes already brought over to the new site, ready for everybody to listen to. A whole bunch of episodes. I think I actually uploaded today all the way to December of 2022, which is actually like 2.5 years worth in the last
Wow.
day or so.
Nice.
So it's going to be cool when it opens up. And also the other thing when it comes to the Patreon is I mentioned it on my site yesterday is I haven't released on when I'm going to be doing the members
Hey,
only
Spooky
piece.
in the house. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Hey, Spooky. But I didn't announce the official date. The store and everything else is going to be open on May 1st. I'm not announcing the date yet for the members part because I want to make sure everything's carried over, everything works. But most importantly, that they get to use their whole month on Patreon and drain that so they could get the most for their buck and then move over.
Look
I
at
just,
you taking care of your people.
well, that's what we do over here. We have a little spooky community. We want to keep it up.
Spooky community. You should invite Spooky Gnome. It'd be perfect.
Yeah, come on over, Spooky Gnome.
There you go. We will drop links in the description. I don't think but actually no. If you look at the title right there, you get to our YouTube page, and I'm sure there's links there. But awesome, congratulations, man! Excited for you.
I am too. I hope it works out. But you know how it is when you're building something new. It's like, does this link work? Does this link work? Does this link?
Yeah, I mean, this podcast has been a year, and it still feels like a new endeavor in a lot of regards. We haven't even passed 300 subs, so
and
you know,
I have
it takes time.
And I literally have just around 250 regular episodes to bring over, and I have more than that for just for our fan club. So I'm looking at at least 500 and some episodes I have to bring over.
Wow, fun stuff.
But it's going to be cool when it's done.
Yeah, it'll all be worth it. That's awesome. Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, getting in to today's tale here, the Toronto riots. This is a story that you actually turned me onto. I had never heard about this until we had kind of been in talks about you coming back on.
I never heard about this one actually. It was one of our listeners that suggested it, and when I read up on it, I couldn't stop laughing because I just have a vision in my head of a circus riot. Like when you hear circus riot, what do you think?
So when I first heard circus riots, I assumed the circus started to riot, like that or people rioted in the circus, and it's neither of those things.
No, it's even better.
Yeah.
Like now I'm going to give the disclaimer. Every time that I actually tell this story to somebody, I start laughing. I can't help it.
Yeah, it must be all the clowns.
It's the clowns, because I just have an envision of a clown with a little squirty flower doing bad stuff. You'll find out in a bit.
Oh man. But yeah, all right. Let's just dive right into it, as they say.
Before we get started though, I have a question for you.
Oh, sure.
Have you been to a circus?
Oh, yeah. I was gonna talk about this later in the show, but we're bringing it up now. I have a memory that actually I was at my parents' house this past weekend that I wasn't sure if I made it up or if it was real, because I had a memory of me riding an elephant. Did you ever do that when you were a kid? Ride the elephants?
No. I was a very sensitive child, and I went to a circus when I was a little kid, and I was about 5 or 6 years old, and my mom brought me towards the elephant, and I started crying, not because I was afraid of the elephant. It was because, why are all these people riding him? Isn't his back hurting?
So they were doing it when you went too. The kids were riding the elephant?
And I'm like, no, don't hurt the poor elephant. Now, just let you know that how badly that has stuck with me. So this fall, I took like this epic vacation, and it ended up in Egypt the last day. We were in Cairo. And so, of course, it was amazing. And we went to the pyramids, the Great Pyramids. And my husband, he was just determined. He's like, you're going to be riding a camel. And I'm like, okay. So we went into the pyramids, which is a whole nother tale for another story. Like, we went into the Great Pyramid.
That's awesome.
No, just letting you know that's not normally what you do. It's just that the Egyptian corruption is major there, and everybody lives off bribes. So if you bribe them $10 US, you're going in.
$10. Wow.
$10, and they only let about 150 to 200 people in a day. So, but it's not what people envision. Okay. Like what I was envisioning is just walking into a room and seeing like a burial chamber, like kind of almost like you see on TV in a movie. But that I wasn't expecting Indiana Jones by any way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
And that's what it was. I mean, you're crawling up a burial shaft, like one of those shafts. I was in a
Ew.
dress because, again, it's a Muslim country. You got to be respectful and cover up.
Yeah.
I'm in a dress and I'm climbing up a very steep incline. Like it's all slick rock. It's like hotter than Hades in there. I'm
Yeah.
sweating out of places I didn't even know it was possible. Like I didn't know my nostrils could sweat like that. So and I'm claustrophobic. And this chamber that or the passage you're going to is only about 3 feet by 7 feet. Or sorry, by 3 by 4. That's
Jeez.
about it. So you're crawling almost like in a fetal position in a dress, and it's hot and a claustrophobic, but there was nothing that was going to stop me. So then when I got out, I'm drenched in sweat. It dried in about 30 seconds. So my husband's like, "We're going to now ride on a camel," and I'm like, "Well, I'm already hot and sweaty. You might as well do it."
Wow, vacation of a lifetime.
So we go see this camel, and I instantly feel bad. I'm like, these poor little camels are stuck in this life of servitude. So I'm like, I can't do this. And my husband's like, you got to be kidding me. And I'm like, I don't know.
I think
I
they're
don't-
probably doing similar stuff than what they would be doing
I
without.
I don't know. And so I says, okay, you're gonna think I'm strange. I got to do this before I get on this camel. So I went up to this camel. I gave him a name. His name was Sebastian. I'm like, Sebastian, I'm really, really sorry. I'm sorry about you being caught in servitude. Then mine was Frank. I'm like, guys, I make you a promise. If I ever win the Powerball, I'm coming back for you, and I'm gonna
back for the camels.
I'm going to make a little camel, protective land for you and your little camel friends, and I'm going to rescue all of you. So that is the only way I felt I could get on the camel.
From what I understand, they're really not that bothered about people riding them. It's because they have those big humps.
They're just doing their camel thing. But I'm telling
that's
you,
that's what I'm trying to say. Is like whether you're riding them or not, like they're really just kind of doing the same shit they would be doing.
But here's the problem with the camel ride. It's not that smooth.
You're sitting on like a giant bump.
And I'm in a dress. And I'm kind of
Nice.
going uphill in a sand dune.
Did you ride saddle style or what do they call it when you put your legs off to the
side saddle? No, I'm just doing it regular. Thank God the dress was long enough I could kind of tuck it. But yeah, I shouldn't have read the books where they were saying, cover up. There were so many people dressed like they were in a club, and I'm like, that would be so much better if I was in shorts, but I'm still going to be respectful to your culture and do this crap in this long dress.
Yeah, well, good for you. You got the Egypt experience.
That was what my husband says. He's like, I can't.
You basically did it all. You went to, what do they call it when you go into? They have like a name for when you go into caverns. It's spelunking. You went spelunking into a temple. You rode the camel. If you got eaten by an alligator, you would have basically gotten the entire Egyptian experience.
Didn't see that, but we got to go to Memphis, so that was really cool. And then I got to go into a public bathroom, and my husband was military for many years, and he told me about some
how
bathrooms.
Did you get on Memphis? This is like the most ADHD story I've ever heard in my life. We're talking about Cairo, and now we're talking about Memphis?
No, not Memphis, United States. I mean Memphis in Egypt. It just kind of down the road from Cairo.
I was like, what the
Sorry, my bad. So we went to Memphis,
we're talking
Egypt.
about Canada.
No. And I have heard stories about him going into public bathrooms in different countries and how terrifying there could be. I'm telling you, that was an experience. Not only do you have to pay.
Is that true?
Well, okay. These guys had toilets, but they didn't flush. And they just took cups of water and poured it in.
Yeah, I've heard about some of the...
There was no water to wash your hands, because I'm telling you, this was the most filthy place I've ever seen in my life. One of them.
Yeah.
And then there's this random chick walks up with like this Evian bottle and just splashes my hand and said, "Go, give me money." It's like, I have so much hand sanitizer.
I saw on a podcast there was a girl talking about the toiletry habits of not third world countries, but like countries out in different continents and stuff like that. And instead of toilet paper, they literally just have like a cup of water where you just like
it's a little terrifying.
Yeah, it's disgusting. We're not going to dive into any more of the logistics involved in that. You can sort that out for yourself.
I'm here to talk about a horror, not that horror, but let me tell you, I walked out.
It's a different type of horrifying history.
And the husband sees my face. It's like, looks at me and he said, "Told you so."
Yeah.
That's it. That's all he has to say. And I'm like, I've been hearing about this for years. I'm glad I have the experience. Hey, Christine. But I don't know if I want to do that again.
Yeah, well, it's good to experience the culture.
Once.
This would certainly be a culture shock for me being in Toronto, but it's a neighborhood not too far removed from you. So how far are you from Toronto,
I'm
where this all
about a
took place?
I'm about a 5-hour drive or a hour and change flight. But honestly, for Canadians, if you're talking to like 5-hour drive, it's not a big deal because it's a lot of vastness here, especially if you go out west. Like it's funny because people are like, "Hey, do you want to come to your house?" "Oh yeah, I'll be there in an hour." Not a big deal.
Yeah,
Whereas you go to some other centers and it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go visit my friend." It's gonna take an hour drive. An hour drive. Oh my God.
Toronto is the big hub with the syrup, right? Because we talked about them on the syrup heist, isn't it? Toronto,
No, that is actually in Quebec where they stole the syrup, and I never had an
Quebec.
idea
Okay.
before that syrup was worth that much money.
Yeah, we like I said, we had Brad Slabs on who you've met for the great syrup heist, and
That's
man, what
crazy.
a tale that was. Yeah,
And
that was a rabbit hole and a half.
my friends, they found out this weekend because have you ever heard of the term a sugar shack?
Yeah, it's where they
Yeah,
boil the syrup.
right. So my girlfriend booked us all last Sunday to go to a sugar shack, and we get
Oh, that's so
there,
cool.
which was fun. The problem is, I had to admit when we were there, I'm not that much of a fan of maple syrup. Yeah. And she's like,
Fascinating.
"What? What are you talking about? You're not a
Yeah,
fan of syrup."
how can you
How
live
can
in Canada and not
and I'm
be a
like,
fan of syrup? That just sounds like
"Sorry, I just
completely backwards from
it's
their.
very sticky and there's a
It's
lot
like
of
being an
it. And
American
it's
and
too
saying I don't like
sweet."
apple pie.
Yeah, everybody at the table, there was 8 of us that went. They're like, "You're on glue, man. What's wrong with you?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
"I
you
don't."
shouldn't be too quick to admit that in Canada.
Yeah, I was like, I literally flinched. I'm like, "Don't hit me. Don't hit me."
Well, Toronto, where this case takes place, back in the 1800s was very far less from the sprawling cityscape that we are so familiar today.
Well, that's
Uh,
very true, and I thought before I tell you a story, I would explain a little bit of the history so you just know how bad this was.
sure.
So the thing is, okay, I don't know if this is your life experience or not, but when a circus comes to town, don't you find that a lot of people get excited about it because they're
Yeah.
fun for all ages? And the
There's a
thing is,
tradition in New Hampshire when the circus comes around that they have to walk the elephants down from where all the trucks come down to the
really,
actual avenue. So there's like a walking of the elephants that takes place every time the circus comes into town. It's a
okay, that's kind of
newspapers come
cool.
out. It's on the report. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, the thing is, the reason why people like circuses, in my opinion, is just it's entertainment you don't normally see.
Yeah,
And but in the
it's a
case
spectacle.
Right. But in the case of a circus who went to Toronto in 1855, it was a spectacle, all right, but it wasn't fun. And what it resulted in is actually the changing of the political structure of the city itself from
Mm,
one circus. So, going into the history so you understand a little bit more. So, for those of you guys who don't know, Toronto is the capital city of the province of Ontario here in Canada, and its population is just under 3 million people. It is one of the
Toronto the Good, they call it, right?
I never heard that one.
Yeah, that was a new one I heard I'd never heard before.
I
Toronto the
just
Good
I
is
just
the
usually
slogan they
hear
have for the
40
city.
or I just usually hear 403 or 613 or whatever like that, area
Nope,
codes. Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, because they usually say, "Oh, I'm at 40 or 413 or whatever." But, it is the most populated city in Canada and in the top 4 of North America. But the thing is about
Hmm,
Toronto that kinda makes it a bit different, and a lot of our big cities are like this. It is how can I explain it? It's really culturally diverse. It is well, Toronto itself is a massive center for music and entertainment. Like that's why they call it the Hollywood North. A lot of movies and TV shows take
So
there.
it's affluent, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
a lot of big concerts go there. Filled with museums,
And
historical
honestly,
sites, you
that's
name it.
consistent with what I
Right.
read in preparation for this, is that even back in the 1800s, there was a lot of immigration going on,
Yes.
which is part and prospect for how we got to the riots, actually, in
Well,
July of
in part,
1855. Yeah, in
but
part.
as you said, like this place, and that one thing I looked into is just how I was curious how many tourists go to Toronto every year, and it's about 43 million. That's a lot. But the
Yeah.
thing why they go is because it's so diverse, but it wasn't this way, like you said. So
Definitely a lot bigger than the 40,000 some residents that were in Toronto back in 1855. It was a very different looking town.
Oh, for sure. It's nothing like it is today in 1855. So, way back in 1751, the French actually set up trading posts in the area. These were abandoned when the French gave up the land to the British in the 7 Years' War. After that, there was the American Revolutionary War, and the land in the current Toronto area was actually a very big fighting ground during warring periods. The
Yeah,
current
they were fighting against Native Americans, right?
They were fighting actually against the Americans who were coming in to are trying, like, for example, in the War of 1812, even then they were trying to take Canada's land from them. So, but even with the American Revolutionary War, the land where the current Toronto area, that was the time it was purchased for a brand new settlement. So there was a guy, his name was Lieutenant Governor John Simcoe. And if you're in Canada, I'm pretty sure almost every street in the east has, like, one place has a street named after him. There's a Simcoe Street everywhere.
Hmm.
So he
He's like the
decided
George Washington of Canada.
a little bit. He's like one of the many.
Yeah.
And he decided to move the capital of what they called Upper Canada, because there was Upper Canada and Lower Canada back then. And he decided to bring the capital city there. And he decided to name it York. And he originally planned for the city to be a military outpost, along with another one that would be in London, Ontario. But then he decided a couple years later, yeah, that ain't going to work. So
Well,
York.
York was the founding town, which would become
Correct.
Toronto.
Toronto. So we're just going to go with York, and we're going to make it the permanent location of the capital city in 1796. No second location. So when he made this decision, development came in, and it started to change the landscape really fast. Like, they started building the harbor, and as soon as they did, war struck, which brings us back to 1812. So in 1812, war was declared between the British and the United States, and since we're part of the Commonwealth, well, now we're in that. York itself was the site of many, many battles. That's why there's so many historical sites there to go and see. But 2 years into the war, they were at a stalemate. So they considered this a time of peace. And at this point, this is when the Toronto's population started to really start getting up there and booming. By 1834, they decided to rename it Toronto. And this is when they had their very first municipal election, which is going to come into play much later. So pay attention to these names. So the election was won by a guy. His name was William Leon Mackenzie, and this guy was very much a liberal. Even though he was a liberal, a couple years later in 1837, he decided to organize a rebellion. And he did this because he wanted to do reformations to Upper Canada, but his higher ups like, yeah, we don't like that
Is
idea.
he one of the Orange men that we're going to be talking about very frequently today?
No,
Okay.
no. But Upper Canada forces came in, booted him and his butt out, and they went to the States. Now, he was a liberal.
Oh, sorry, one sec. Bubba, Alistair is here. He's just taking care of Olympia. He'll be right back.
So none of this stopped the advancement of Toronto. War didn't stop anything. So they continued to grow. And by 1855, they now had a population that tripled in the past couple decades. And that's a lot if you think about it. It was now one of the largest cities in Canada, had a population, as you said, about 40,000 people. But it was not like the urban city we know today. This place was considered to be a massively rough frontier town, and it was filled with saloons and brothels. And a lot of people took advantage of both of those places. And that includes the SB Howe Star Troop Menagerie and Circus. So on the morning of July 12th, 1855, the circus rolled into town. Now, how these guys worked is like all circuses did back then. They would perform in one location for a couple days, and then the entire group would dismantle, pack up the whole show, throw them in their wagons, and move to the next city to perform. Now, the clowns and the carnies of SB Howe Star Troop and Menagerie and Circus, they fit right into Toronto. They also love saloons, they love the brothels, and they love the drinking. So they fit right in.
Yeah, wasn't there like 152? That's what I have. 152 taverns with like the same street where this brothel is that they all meet. There was like 80 some bars. It's like basically the main street of Toronto. It's just all bars and taverns. Yeah.
Like literally, it's all bars and brothels. That's it. An occasional grocery store, but it's all brothels. So the circus.
Here's a picture of what that looked like, by the way. This is just giving you an idea. So
brothel.
We're in like Western times. So like at the same time in America, the Great Frontier is happening, like the big gold rush out in Nevada and all that. But obviously we are very far from where all that is taking place.
See, you guys were looking for gold. We were drinking and in brothels.
Yeah, very true. So, we're still, the vernaculars of the day were the same. So, although we may be in a different country, we're still essentially in old Western times. And that,
Yes.
like, hang a man for stealing a horse type attitude was still very much the way of the world. And
absolutely.
Toronto was anything but far removed from that.
Oh, it doubled down. It was in there. So the circus, they put on an amazing show the first day. And after their performance ended at that night, a group of clowns decided that they wanted to go party. So they started carousing because, well, there's a lot of bars there. So they started carousing and they ended up at a place on the corner of King and Jarvis Street. It was advertised as a social club and it was operated by a lady who was named Mary Ann Armstrong. Now, there was a whole lot of socializing that happened there. It was literally one of about 100 brothels that lined the streets of the city at that time. Now, you got to think,
Well,
hundreds
what
of
made
brothels, 40,000 people.
What made this brothel in particularly dangerous for these clowns is that it was a specific hangout for a small group of Protestant Tory elites known as the Orange Order.
Yes.
And Toronto back in these days was more or less run by a lot of these gentlemen who hung out together at the Orange Lodge and made together what they call these Orangemen, who would basically fill up all the important jobs in the city. All of the policemen were Orangemen, all the firefighters. Usually they focused kind of just like on beating up Catholics.
Well, I'll go into that in a second, and I'll explain these guys and how they originated was very interesting. But the thing is, so imagine this brothel. By the time the clowns got to the brothel, they were already pretty lit. I'll be honest, they had already been at multiple taverns and saloons. All they wanted was a good time with the working ladies. And
well, they had just finished up like 3 sets of shows during like a sold out weekend. Like they crushed it.
They wanted to party.
This circus performance was probably one of the biggest shows of their tour. And from what I understand, this was the back leg of their, what was it, SB House Star Troop Menagerie. They had been touring for a while.
Yes.
And they finished up this long leg of their tour in Toronto with some of the biggest shows they'd ever done. Because, like, as you said, Toronto is like one of the biggest cities, not just in America, but in North America.
So they put on a show and they deserved a night out. So they thought.
At the end of those, I mean, if you can picture it, at the end of those 3 days, anything like a rock and roll band, this is like the closest thing you're going to get to that in like the 1850s.
Yeah.
So they're full of piss and vinegar. You know what I mean? Like they've had these great shows clowning around, so to speak, and all they want is to get hammered and
booze and women.
Sex. Yeah.
Booze and women. And Toronto was the perfect place for that.
Yeah.
So,
they could not have been in more familiar company.
But the problem was, before the clown showed up, as you kind of hinted at, Marianne's was also already hosting a group of men. Now, these guys were from the Hook and Ladder Firefighting Company. So, to explain how firefighting was done at this point in Toronto, at that point, city-owned fire departments didn't exist. There were several private-run for-profit departments in Toronto. So what that meant is when a fire would break out, every company would just run to the scene and try to cut a deal with whoever owned that building. So whoever made the best deal would put out the fire. But
It's
sometimes
definitely a very different look than what we are used to today.
But sometimes it did result in no deal being made and the building burned down.
Are you serious?
I'm completely serious.
Yeah, now, actually, like 2 weeks before this whole circus thing broke out, 2 firefighting crews responded to the same scene. And the way it worked back then is basically whoever arrives on scene first gets incident command. And so, like,
well,
as
they
you
would
said,
get into fistfights.
Wow.
They would 2 weeks before this riot, they're fucking breaking down into.
These guys, all the companies come and they would start fighting each other to put out the fire, which also resulted in a lot of buildings burning down. So it kind of gives you an idea of what these guys were. They were like cowboys with a fire hat.
Yeah, they were thugs with a fire hose.
Pretty much.
It was thought of almost more as a social event than it was any kind of profession or emergency response. Like these guys, they would put out a fire and then spend the rest of the night at the bar and whorehouses celebrating. So it attracted a very certain type of man.
A very, very specific type of person would be
and a lot of them were these orange men, as we're going to be talking about here pretty soon. But yeah, I thought that was like the craziest aspect of this whole thing is like literally 2 weeks before all these riots break out, there's literally firefighters fighting in front of a fire scene because they just can't come together to work on it. So you'd think that like their radar be up, like, hey guys, we gotta be in our best behavior here. Like,
No.
really not like in good facing with the public. They don't. But the part of this whole Orangeman thing that we're gonna get into is like they literally ran shit. Like they had the whole entire city of lock because all of the important positions within the city of Toronto were held by Orangemen.
Yeah.
So it was very much a city under oppression of this like social club, and these hook and ladder boys were all Orangemen.
Yeah. So going into these guys a bit. So as you mentioned, like they had gotten to a fight with another company, like you said, 2 weeks before that itself started to come into a riot. And the police had to come in and break this up. So when we're talking on this day, July 12th, you got to go and picture this. These hook and ladder guys had another long day of fighting fires, getting into fist fights, doing whatever they do. And they hit multiple bars. So they were feeling no pain either. And so the firefighters arrived first at Marianne's drunk looking for company. So now picture it. 2 groups of drunken men in the same location looking for fun with a limited amount of women. Now, doesn't this sound like a bad joke right now? You know, a clown and a firefighter walk in a brothel. They walk into a brothel. What could go wrong?
Everything.
Well, it's about to go down.
Well, the clowns, though, to their credit, they weren't exactly the kind of guys you want to mess with. Like, especially back in these days in the frontier times, these guys traveled from town to town, sometimes
they were
being
some
mocked
rough
and
clowns.
booed. Like, people would throw rocks at these guys. Like, they were far from irreproachable themselves. Like,
they weren't your typical today Ronald McDonald clown. These guys were some rough people. Now, here's the thing. So what happens next in our story? There's a couple different versions. So I'll tell you, you can pick and choose your own and imagine it in your head and try not to laugh. But some say that a clown and a fireman started arguing over the surfaces of one specific young lady, and then they came to blows. In another story, one of the firemen got mouthy. I'm going to start to laugh. He purposely knocked off a clown's hat. I'm imagining that little clown hat. Boop. And then they started to fight. I can just envision it. Like he has the flower and he squirts him in the eye. Take that. And then they just start beating the hell out of each other.
How about that's the story that I heard, that this guy Myers got his hat knocked off. And that was when this kerfuffle broke out.
But there's another story too. And it's a clown cut into the servicing line in front of one of the firemen. But either way, it had the same result. This was a major brawl. The clowns, the firemen, they just start beating the living hell out of each other. And it got so bad that the cops were called to break things up after they found that the clowns beat the living hells out of the firemen. The clowns won.
The firemen,
over the firemen.
Now, were they dressed in their full clown gear?
I don't know, but I hope so.
Oh God, right? You'd have to
be the best.
Yeah, that would be
the best. They had the nose.
Yeah, and the hair.
I bet the big wig.
How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you take my prostitute?
Right.
Well, you can see it was very much like a contest of egos. You have these, hook and ladder boys, these Orangemen who are essentially running the city of Toronto. But then on the other side of you have these clowns who've just come off one of the biggest performances of their careers. They literally probably feel like rock stars because they are. You kind of think that they weren't like
clown
movies or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, it was the closest thing you could get to celebrities. And the hook and ladder boys were very much thought of in the same regard that a celebrity would nowadays. Like they had not fans, but they had like groups of people that followed them and loved them. And same thing with the circus. People who went to saw the circus, they knew the clowns, they knew the names, they knew who Myers was and all that. So it was very much 2 groups of very rough and tumble guys with very big egos, probably not wanting to buck to each other. And eventually that just erupted into violence. Yeah. And to the clowns' credit, as you said, they beat the hell out of those firemen. They didn't just win the fight. They beat the shit out of them.
2 of the firefighters were hospitalized. They were so bad. And so the cops had to come and completely disperse the crowd. But again, the clowns put 2 firemen in the hospital, which I think is hilarious because I always envision the big wig. Right. But you remember how I mentioned in the beginning, we were talking about politics a bit and you've been hitting at that? Well, I'm going to explain what the Orange Group is about. So during this time, the majority of Toronto's population were actually immigrants from Ireland, and most of them brought with them their own political and religious conflicts. Now, most of the city's Irish community at the time was Catholic, but the government was mostly Irish Protestant, which you could see where this is going to go.
Yeah.
Many of the Irish Protestants were part of what you've already mentioned. They were called the Orange Order. So basically, this was a political and a religious society. Their goal was to defend the Protestant faith and maintain their connection to Britain. But they also influenced politics at every level. And their main goal was to keep all Irish Catholics and, well, everybody but themselves out of power. And they wanted to keep the Irish Catholics as second-class citizens while they made all the decisions for the city. So they were very well known at this time to gather up in gangs and physically attack Irish Catholics or people who didn't agree with them on the streets. So since the Orange Order, as you mentioned, controlled the fire, they also controlled the police department. So they could do whatever they wanted without penalty. But after that fire, or the firefighters got into that big fight, well, let's just put it this way. They got their butts kicked by some random clowns. Okay. And they were random clowns for out of town. They're not going to have this. So the firefighters wanted revenge. So what do you think they're going to do? Of course, they're going to talk to their Orange Order buddies, right?
Wow.
And it's like, we got to beat up these clowns. We got to get our revenge on them. So the very next night, a gang of firefighters joined with a mob of men from the Orange Order to hunt down the clowns. So they stormed into the circus site. They were carrying picks, axes, and clubs. They overturned the wagons. They pulled down the tents. They set ones that were still standing on fire. And the firefighters and their gang beat the clowns so severely, they almost killed them. And all the carnies started running for their lives. Now, at this point, it's now a full-blown riot. And the police were called. And the police, do you think they did anything?
No, because they're on the side of the orange people.
Right. So they just sat back and watched. Their Orange Order people just beat up the clowns.
So from what I understand, right, the mob kind of rolls up to the Toronto Fair Green, like the kind of grassy space where they had set up their tents and all that for the performances. And as you say, it doesn't start as violent as it eventually gets to. Like they kind of go mob mentality and they work up to that. But they start off initially like throwing stones, knocking over carts, like you mentioned. But they're demanding that this specific clown, Myers, who according to one of the stories, had his hat knocked off, that he be handed over, likely to be lynched. Like, let's face it, with this whole mob mentality, they probably would have just straight killed him.
Yes,
and
that's what they wanted.
The circus performers at this point, they're kind of actually holding their own. Like, it hasn't reached riot at this point, but it's groups of rivaling factions fighting. Like, they're not handing over this clown sitting down. So if you can picture it, you have the Hook and Ladder Boys hadn't arrived yet because the fires hadn't been started, right? That's the way I understand it. So you have these citizens basically that are being influenced by the Orangemen fighting circus performers. Like, you can almost picture like the trapeze guys, like, whoa,
flying through the air, jump.
Yeah, swiping people up with the trunks and stuff. That just
somebody juggling, throws it at that person.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So they take out their circus skills and fight back. That's funny.
Pull some flowers out of your sleeve, throw it at a guy.
Yeah.
See, it's hard to get through this story without a laugh because it's clowns. But
I couldn't find anything regarding the animals, though, which I guess is a good thing that none of them were injured in the assaults.
Yeah, I couldn't either, and that to me makes me lean towards the animals weren't hurt in this story, which is a good thing.
Probably would have.
I mean, they seem to be in such probably a drunken rage that they seem to not care who's in their way. If anything, they will hurt the animals out of spite.
They were just going at those clowns. But here's the thing. It's got so bad that the mayor of Toronto actually came down to try to see and stop this himself. So he actually himself prevented a firefighter from killing a clown that day with an axe. He fought this guy, to take away the axe. And so nothing was working. He had to go and call in the local militia who showed up with guns and bayonets. And they were the ones who finally was able to break this up.
Wow.
So at this point...
hold on. You skipped a part, though, because the riot comes, and then once they start setting fires, they ring the local Hook and Ladder guys that are going to come.
Those guys aren't going to do nothing.
Yeah, assumedly to put out the fires.
No.
As you mentioned, they just immediately join into the mayhem.
They just start beating the clowns. They were, nothing was working at this point. So at this point, the militia came in, broke it up, but there was injured circus people and clowns everywhere. And of the hundreds of people involved in this riot, 17 were arrested only, which tells you the power of that the Orange group, right?
Oh, look at that. Sounds very familiar.
17 were arrested, but they basically all got off.
Well,
That's it.
they went to trial a few weeks later, but as you kind of hinted at
Nothing
trial,
happened.
the police all developed amnesia because
Yeah.
all of those people were Orange Order members and they couldn't remember seeing any of them at the scene. And so the accused was acquitted. But that was the big trigger point in this story. The people of Toronto at this point, they had enough of this crap. They
Oh.
had enough of the Orange Order beating up citizens on the street and random clowns. They were sick of the cover-ups. And soon after the Circus riot, there was another riot occurred between the Protestants and the Catholics. So once again, at this one, and it's only a couple weeks later, police have amnesia that, everybody who is Orange Order is safe. Now, the other thing that was discovered and went public is the chief of police in Toronto at that time freed a suspect who was an Orange Order member who was accused of robbing a bank.
Wow.
And he played stupid with that. So now the residents of Toronto knew they had to act some way. And then they did, because guess what happened next?
They burned him.
Nope. A municipal election happened.
Oh, okay.
Now,
So they.
With
Oh,
this,
look at that.
well, with this municipal election, people were determined to get rid of the Irish Protestants. Like, enough of these guys. But despite the Orange Order was going in the streets. They were threatening and intimidating the voters and their lives and trying to force a scenario. It didn't work this time. A mayor that backed the Irish Catholic population was voted in. Now, that was the first time since our guy, William Leon Mackenzie's rebellion, that a person was not handpicked by the Orange Order and won the election. Like, literally, that was a huge gap of time. Now, the new mayor immediately said, okay, I'm done with this. He got a city council with like thinkers, and their very first goal that they announced out publicly was get rid of the corrupt city government, the police department. Get rid of them all. So they launched an inquest, and by the end of this, the entire policing service of Toronto was scrapped. Within the next 3 years, every single Toronto police officer was fired, along with their chief. They were all replaced by people that were not political, not part of the Orange Order. And this was the first time that Toronto ever seen a city-backed, non-political based police force. Now,
so in 1834, when the initial Toronto police force, which would become the foundation for the Toronto Police Department as we still know it today, it was founded by just basically like these five it was like five dudes, basically, these orange men that founded the police department. Beforehand to that, it was just basically able-bodied men around the town who were elected for like special night duty as, quote, like special constables without fear of facing penalty or imprisonment. And so when the idea came of forming a police force, it was, like I said, just basically these group of dudes that already had like-minded ideals that forged this Toronto police force, and they were paid about 5 shillings a day to patrol and maintain order of the small frontier town with a ratio of about 1 officer per 2,000 citizens. And all 5 of these founding members, they were also hook and ladder boys. So seeing the Circus riots take place some 20 years later, all of those founding members were a part of it and basically ran the department. Despite at this point having a full-time chief. So Toronto police around the time were thought of as, quote, like formidable engines of oppression. It was like they really they just did what they wanted, put it that way. I have a quote here that one such resident recalled Toronto police as, quote, without uniformity except in the respect that the uniformly slovenly oppressed. So in other words, they weren't great cops.
They sucked.
Yeah.
We're just gonna put it out.
Yeah.
But today,
so the Circus riots in 1855 were like their big day out, like more so than a stain on the career of Toronto Police Department. The silver lining in all of this is that, as you said, the police force would be completely upheaved.
Gone.
So like everything that started the initial Toronto Police Department is gone. So it was it was reformed within the Toronto Police Department that likes had never been seen before. It was like a complete breakdown to its foundation.
But the thing is that I found the most amazing about this story, it took nearly another 100 years before the stranglehold of the Orange Order that they had on the city of Toronto was broken. And because they were in every little section of it, they were running the city. They were the police. They were the fire. They were everybody who was political in that city or had an office. It took 100 years to get rid of them. But
Wow.
the interesting thing is, whoever knew before today, and I told you this story, that the Toronto Police Force and Fire Brigade was developed due to a clown and a fireman walked into a brothel.
Yeah. Nope.
Well, you can say a little bit though about the reform that it led to. Like, even though it did take as long as you stated to, wash out all of the Orangemen. In 1859, when they elected this new mayor and completely upheaved the entire police department, basically later that year, the department was completely unrecognizable.
Mhm.
They ended up mandating a board of police commissioners that were set in place and held under its hiring a new chief, former infantry captain William Station Prince, who the echoes of what he did are still seen in standardized policing today. Whether it's
still here in Ontario, or actually throughout Canada, every police force has a police board, and that all originated from the clown riot.
From the clown. Oh, okay. Look at that. Just to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Well, alongside that, you have like standardizing training, hiring practices, new strict rules of discipline and conduct, like all of these things that we see in local and present day police procedures. A lot of them were founded under this new police force that started from the Circus riots. Like, a lot of what we see in modern day police procedure
Throughout the world, yes.
Yeah, was born in the echoes and traces of what happened because of these fucking clowns.
Because one clown decided, because a guy fireman knocked the hat off a clown. Like,
Right.
who would think that something so simple would have such an impact?
Yeah, such a historical
It
impact.
was the spark that ultimately unraveled the sweater,
enough.
right? Yeah, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, and
or the elephants.
As they started to pull that thread of or elephants, as they started to pull the thread on that crazy sweater, they started to realize like how deep the corruption went, and like we said, just 2 weeks before these circus riots, they have firefighters that are fighting each other on the scene. Like, it's a complete fucking mess.
Yeah.
I just would love to have a time machine to go back and see that. The clowns beating the hell out of the firefighters. Like, that alone, I just want to see it. Because isn't what I'm picturing in my head? Like, they're wearing like the colorful outfits, the nose, the makeup, and they're just like.
Well, it's funny you say that, Brenda, because in my research for all of this, I was actually able to track down a clown who was from the initial riots. Isn't that awesome?
That's amazing.
So he's waiting in the wings.
Let's see him.
I'm gonna go get him, and he'll be in, and we can ask him all kinds of questions about what happened at these riots. So I'm gonna go get him, and I'll be right back.
Oh, good God. I wonder what is he gonna look like? He's 200 some years old.
You're so funny, Brenda. Maybe, actually, I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe.
Like, is he gonna be a zombie clown?
He might be a zombie clown. You never know where Beefy fishes those extra characters from.
Oh, good gosh.
Time past. What's interesting about the outcome, really, I know I came a little bit about the middle to the end, but the most important thing here is that it took them complete eradication of the police force to come to an understanding. I'm sure originally they didn't want to completely dismantle the way they did, but as they were changing and removing things, they realized, we gotta start over, a complete nuclear bomb.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Schmeckles! What of it? How about you? Schmeckles here! Oh, what do you know about it? The riots! Oh yeah, I was there. Filthy firemen there. Oh, the filthy firemen there. I gave them what more I did. I tell you what, we rumbled their son. Yes, we did. We put them firemen in their place. We did. They were all upset. Yes, they were. Hey, woohoo!
That's what I envisioned in my head.
I'm not sure. Speckles, what is down on your forehead? Is that your hat? Or is it a pimple?
Let me tell you, the big dot on my forehead. Let's just say not all sexual diseases they got from back in the days were curable. Oh, hey, woo-hoo!
Too many brothels.
That Mary Armstrong, let me tell you, she left me more than a limp leg, that's for sure. Woo-hoo! There was more than one fire those firemen couldn't point out, I tell you what. It still burns when I pee.
And the firemen can't help, can they?
And they
Oh, those firemen, let me tell you. Oh, yeah, I was there, those filthy firemen. Let me tell you, they were all upset because no matter how much water they put down their pants, they couldn't stoke the fire of that crust from that old Mary Armstrong brothel, let me tell you. They may have been firemen, but the burning they felt when they peed may have been way worse than any burns they would have got when they were fighting fires, let me tell you. You get what I'm saying?
How many
They
gallons
were
of water?
whores. What?
So how many gallons of water they put under their pants?
Too many gallons of water, I tell ya. Enough water to drown the seas, to part the to part the fires of their crotches, I tell ya. They split the eat the head of the fires, they did.
Wow.
I'll say, I had my fun with them gals too, I did, let me tell ya.
Yeah, you
I
did.
smeckled that ass, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yes, you do.
I'm going to use that word forever now.
There was a
Smeckled
lot
an
of
ass.
honking going on, and not just in my nose.
Oh my goodness.
I was really pulling things out of sleeves, and not just napkins.
Okay.
I really put my juggling skills to good use.
Oh. Okay. I love the red hair.
There's so much I could say, but
Yeah.
it's only an hour show.
You could say the carpet matches the drapes, both in physicality and in metaphorical intensity.
And both are on fire.
And they're both on fire.
Somebody call the fire department. Wait, don't do that. They're assholes.
Bad idea.
You could say them broads, when I was done with them, they really tasted funny.
Oh, no.
Oh, you know what they say about guys with big feet? You ever
What
seen
did it
clown
say, Speckles?
shoes?
That they have big feet.
You ever seen clown shoes?
Yes.
They're huge.
So what does that mean, Schmeckles?
Fill us in.
I'll let you piece together what that might mean for yourselves there. If I was to recreate this in balloon animals, I wouldn't need to do a lot of twisting.
Oh.
See, you know, the only thing that could make this better right now is if Schmeckles, if you did a puppet show.
Oh, I do a puppet show, but it's internal. I tell you, I can move my hands around and work your broads like a puppet. I'll have you squawking and squeaking all over the place. I will. I'll work,
Like that?
listen to me, Brenda. I'll work you like a puppet. I will.
Like that?
Honk,
Honk honk.
Hog, hog.
What do you think we're doing? We're all stuffed in that tiny car there, huh? You don't want to know.
Squeezing your noses and your pimple on your forehead?
It's a circle jerk.
Oh, no.
Shit, we're on YouTube. I shouldn't have said that.
No, you could say that.
We're live. I can't bleep that out.
You mean like circle beef jerky? The food?
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, that's
Yeah. It's a food shot.
You could say I really snapped into her Slim Jim. Woohoo!
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, them broads, let me tell you, they was nasty. You could say that room, it really smelled like clownfish by the time it was all over with all our mixing of juices and French. Oh, it was bad. It was really bad.
Oh.
This is amazing. Keep going, Schmuckle.
You know,
Come on,
clowns,
all you got?
when they get it on, it's always intense. Intense.
How intense is it?
No, that was the intense, like as
No, we got it.
in actual tense, like circus tense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
But
guess
then
if you
you
have to
reply,
explain the joke, is this thing on?
Ooh.
I guess you could say I really took a pie to the face. He's getting bad.
Oh my goodness.
The next day, I couldn't even ride my unicycle right.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so glad children don't watch us.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Some of these are really bad.
I'm so glad.
I'm glad
But-
your daughter's not in the room.
Yeah. She wouldn't understand any of that anyway.
Thank God.
But
I spent the next few weeks on tour riding with the elephants. Let me tell you, I'd lay down at night and I'd look up and I'd see that giant gaping elephant. Never mind. And just be reminded of Melinda from Madame Armstrong's. And you know, let me tell you, to this day, when I smell elephant veg, I still think of her.
This is great. Keep going. Come on. Hello, America.
Well,
Welcome
okay,
to the world.
I guess that's my cue, and I'm getting the old crane over here. Schmeckles is just about out of time here.
Bye,
So
Schmeckles.
any questions
thanks
you
for
want
joining
to
us.
ask me before I make my way out of here?
I'm in love with your pimple.
I love you too. Okay,
I'm just
then.
wondering, did you have any injuries after the riot?
Oh, like I said, I couldn't walk straight. I was walking with a limp. I couldn't ride my unicycle straight. I wasn't able to form my donuts. It was a mess.
That's too bad.
My makeup was all smudged. It was a nightmare.
Hey, Schmeckles, how old are you?
Too old to be making jokes like this. That's for sure. In fact, I think if you did the math out, me being alive and sitting here to talk to you probably isn't scientifically or physiologically possible.
But thank God for AI.
Oh my God. Or maybe you're like a magical fairy, Schmeckles.
Let me tell you, there was something magical that night. Me and, what was her name? Melinda. Me and Melinda from Madame Armstrong's.
And the elephant.
Elephant band.
Right. She reminds me of the
had-
elephant.
Really had something special we did.
Right.
Let me
With
tell
a room
you.
that smells like clownfish.
Woohoo! Hee-hee.
Oh, this is so bad.
Okay then. I'm gonna go before I get this show in any more trouble.
Bye, Schmeckles.
Bye, Schmeckles.
Oh, love the red hair. And the music.
Yeah. I'm into the music.
Um,
It's depressing for
It's-
clowns, but it's okay.
it's like in a scary movie when you're stuck, when you're trapped in the basement and this music comes up, you go, oh my God, what's going on? We're definitely going to die soon.
But it makes
Right.
sense with the clown, right?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah,
with the clown.
that should be his theme. It's like
100%.
Mike Myers, like
Yeah.
the clown.
Yeah. Even the background fits.
It does.
Now we're back to the dark alley.
What happened?
I don't know.
What happened?
Beefy,
We
we're
were
so
visited
scared.
by a clown.
Yeah,
Did I miss it again?
you totally did. You're too busy eating up.
Damn. You know, every time we get these, I go out of my way to book these great guests for
Yeah.
the show,
Yeah,
and I miss it every time.
I know.
What a
It's
ripoff.
okay. I
Yeah,
know. Next time.
You really missed out. We were talking to a porn clown. It was
Yes.
A
amazing.
porn clown.
With red
pretty
hair.
much.
I
Yeah.
gotta get
Weird
the link
pimple
for
on
his,
his head.
for
With a
his
huge
only,
pimple
for
on
his
his head.
OnlyFans. We're gonna, we'll have to
With
work that out in the, for the
OnlyFans.
links in the description.
No clowns were hurt in the making of this episode.
None.
Yes, just my
Mhm.
sides.
Mm-hmm.
And our possibly our rating on YouTube, we're probably shadow banned now.
And
No,
you
I don't
know,
think
you know
so.
what's going to happen? You all going to go to bed tonight and dream of weird, freaky clowns.
I'm gonna dream of clownfish.
Just to break the fourth wall a little bit, there were a couple of those jokes where I physically saw disgust roll over Brenda's face. It was like,
No,
oh God, this is bad.
but it's funny as hell.
Just a grin, just like, why did I come on this stupid fucking show?
Oh, we have fun.
We have fun on this show.
And with that
Oh my God.
creepy ass clown.
So I have a question then. Whatever happened to the cops that were fired? Because eventually they go home, they have to go and live a life. Were they subsequently almost like canceled, quote unquote speaking? Could they go back to any
It's
sort
funny
of
you
life?
say that because I actually have a cop. No, I'm sorry. Just kidding.
That would be great.
That would be kind of funny. I was canceled because I beat up a clown.
Mhm.
Honestly, there's not a lot that they talk about. So my presumption is they just stopped being cops and did something else.
Wow.
Because as you know, with corruption back then, there was not a lot people did about it. And a lot of people just kind of
They probably joined SB House and Menagerie's clown troupe.
as bouncers.
Honestly, that's the tragedy of this whole story is like the other circus performers and SB Menagerie, like all of their shit got burned down. Like that's really like whoever this SB guy is, his entire business was destroyed for just basically like the clowns are a very small facet. And this was like a pretty big circus. Like they had giraffes, a whole like trapeze act. Like it was a really big production, especially for back in the 1850s. There was a lot of money and logistics and development invested in this really big circus performance.
Mhm.
And all because of actions of probably just a handful of clowns, it all got burned away.
Right. And the reality of it is, did the clowns really do anything wrong? No.
No. They were just doing what everybody else was doing. Having a
They
good
probably
time
didn't even
with the
start
hookers.
that fight, to be
They're
honest.
enjoying Toronto at its best.
Right. At its best.
And which was all about the hookers and
I
the
know that
alcohol.
like we can only speculate as to what exactly happened because there's so many different versions, but I guarantee you those firefighters were giving those clowns shit. They probably were just there to get their rocks off and go home. They were tired after, but it was a collision of egos.
But honestly, they probably thought of themselves as untouchable, really.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
They got Orange Order buddies. Oh, look at us. We're big, tough firefighters. And then these clowns show up and they're like, hey,
who were traveling and
you're
probably
taking my prostitute. Who you take mine? No,
they probably didn't know like the way of the land in Toronto because they're from out of town, not really knowing who they're fucking with. Plus, they have a bunch of beer in their stomach.
It's the horse house, like it's whoever is available. There's not that much to navigate when you go to a pleasure house. Are you available? Yes.
Please do tell, Alistair. I had no idea you were so familiar.
No, it's just simple common sense. If you go to a pleasure house,
first-hand experience,
not first-hand experience. Although I'll be the first one to tell you, it is not above me. I'm beneath it. Whatever. So, no, if you go to a pleasure house, I'm assuming if someone is busy, then busy, right? So you have to wait until someone is available, correct? There's no extra thought into, oh wait, don't speak to her because she's the girlfriend of this guy. Oh wait, don't speak. There's just, nobody really looks into the dynamics when you go to a pleasure house. If anything, you go to the pleasure house a little bit tipsy, right? I would.
The thing is that really confuses me about this story is the fact that there was well over 100 different horror houses on that street and area. What, you couldn't go next door?
Because probably that one had a special sauce. We vet our product. They are clean.
See, Marianne must have been doing something different and special, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
for them to break into a brawl outside because there's just so many of them. Just go to the
wars were started over
Marianne, they were everywhere.
Yeah. It was like Helen of Troy, it was like rivaling factions fighting over her.
Why? Just go next door.
Well, we're creatures of habit. Maybe next door didn't have the girl that they liked.
Didn't have Marianne.
They didn't have Marianne.
Nobody's like Marianne. Actually, from what I understand, Marianne was the madam. So actually, she really wasn't even.
She's just directing the entertainment.
One of the
That's all
girls.
she was doing.
She really wasn't even up for grabs. So
Marianne had the best girls with the best tricks.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. There's only a limited number of them.
Listen, we have plenty of time left. You mentioned possibly diving into this other story. Do you want to maybe tell us about what was it called? The Black Donnellys?
Well, I decided to prep something else for you guys as a little surprise, and the Toronto Circus riot. How can you not love that story? It's fabulous. But this one talks about a different type of corruption, but it also is the corruption of the police force. So
look at this, Alistair. We're getting bonus story. Aren't we lucky to have Brenda on this week?
Gosh, just corrupt.
She does her own prep. We've never had a guest come in here and just like take over the show like Brenda. I love it.
I'm the queen. I'm the queen of prep.
Just get to sit back and just like listen to the story. It's great.
I love.
Can you,
I need more.
Yeah, can you come on every week, Brenda?
We're gonna have to call this, not with horrifying history. It's horrifying history presents. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But
Brenda,
under the horrifying history umbrella. Yeah, the horrifying history family of shows presents Brought to War.
Now, the thing is, this one is not funny. It's dark as heck. So buckle up. It's a lot.
Murder.
We love
murder.
Dark and gruesome and gore. We've gone down the dregs on this channel. Let me tell. I mean, you just heard what fucking Smeckles had to say. Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, why I love this story is there's a lot of tales out there about haunted places. And honest to God, I tell a lot of them on my show. But the thing is, when you look at a tale about a haunted place, they are usually exaggerated through the years, or the story turns into a more myth state. And that's for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's to bring in tourists. Sometimes it's to demonize the actions that occurred or further demonize them. But the thing is about this story that I'm about to tell you guys, none of this applies. Not one bit. In the tale I'm going to tell you, it happened exactly how I'm going to tell it when as presented, not exaggerated, and it's a case of extreme hatred targeting towards one family, corruption at its highest levels, and about a community that gets the taste of blood. So, did I tantalize you enough about that one yet?
Oh my God.
Yes,
they murdered the entire city. Yeah, Taste of Blood family. So mom, dad, brother, sister, grandma, grandpa were murderers.
Well,
I am invested. Like, say less, sister. Let's
go.
It.
Okay.
Let's dive in.
So this one starts back in 1840, and it starts with a couple who fell in love back in their homeland, being Ireland, and their name was James and Joanna Donnelly. See, everything starts in Ireland today. So after they had their first son, who they named John Jr., they immigrated over to Canada. So after they settled in, the Donnellys hoped to establish a homestead for themselves, their son, and their now 7 kids that they had when they came to Canada. Now,
sounds like a typical Irish Catholic family.
Makes sense. Now, they wanted to have land in a place called Biddulph, which is near London, Ontario. The thing is about Biddulph, like many other communities in Ontario during this time, the community dealt with constant crime ranging from robberies, assaults, and murder. Same as Toronto.
One could say they bit off more than they could chew. Womp womp.
Now,
I thought Smeckles left. They were still getting bad jokes. What happened?
So now the thing is, this is where our stories converge, because the same thing with the Toronto police. Anyone brought to justice wasn't easy because the majority of constables were untrained and were often the criminals themselves. So of course they're not going to arrest themselves. And also for various different reasons, the courts at the time were not handing out punishments that the people in Canada thought that was reasonable. In fact, they were just very weak. So keep that all in mind. So after they moved to the area, the Donnellys settled on a piece of land that didn't belong to James legally, and they became squatters. But the thing is, he actually had a right to that. Since the land was owned by the Canada Company, they leased it to a guy named James Grace. They didn't know if James knew the land was James didn't know if anybody knew the land or not. But the thing is, squatting was very common that time because it was a frontier practice that was supported by the courts in Canada under common property rights. So what he was doing was squatting, but the same thing, it was legal.
So is this happening right around the same time as the circus riots, like 1800s?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So now in 1856, right around, a year after the riots, Patrick Farrell bought this land from James Grace. So Patrick decided to immigrate from Ireland to Canada and take possession of this property. And when he did, he showed up and found the Donnelly family squatting there, which kind of was in shock. So he decided to take him to court. Now remember about the court system, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, they went to court in 1857, and Farrell tried to evict the Donnellys, but that's not what happened. The disputants agreed to let James keep and reside on 50 acres of that land, which was far less than he actually cleared over the 10 years.
That's
But
a
still,
lot.
he still got a lot of land out of it. And even though this agreement was made
hold
in
on.
court,
The squatters got land?
Yeah.
frontier practice, it was legal.
It was legal.
What?
Yep.
Wow.
But now imagine this. You're living in Ireland, you buy some land, you go there's a dude on it, you take him to court, and you actually lose a big portion of what you purchased.
I would be fucking pissed.
Exactly.
No wonder fucking murder happens.
Okay.
So
No wonder.
now, thing is, Farrell was pissed, and I can see why he was pissed. So every time, even though there was agreement and everybody knew about it, he would just go and attack the Donnellys in public, just start screaming at them. So on June 27th, 1857, Farrell actually attacked the dad in a public event with a handspike. I had to Google it.
Oh.
So you're going to have to Google it. And at the same time, Donnelly threw another handspike that just apparently they just have them lying all over the place, threw it at Farrell, and he killed him. So now he's dead with handspike.
What? Oh my God.
So Donnelly, in self-defense, killed Farrell. That didn't work back then. Self-defense wasn't a ruling back then. So James, he actually knew that he was probably going to hang. So he went and hid in the bush for the next 2 years.
Oh my God, this thing is like an ice pick.
Yes, it's kind of that. That's because, the ice, snow, winter storm, everybody work around.
That's not a good way to die, by the way. And Farrell obviously wanted to kill him. But either way.
Hang on, I can let me.
You're gonna put up the picture?
Yeah, I can pull this up.
That's not a good way to die.
Yeah,
Brenda, it hurts. Yes.
Yeah, that's gonna linger. Yeah.
Yes,
you guys see that? Yeah, it's literally like
a big vampire killing spike.
Yes, yes, exactly what I was trying to think of. Yeah, the vampire spike.
So now Farrell's dead. And like I said, James, he kind of hid out in the bush and he was hiding out with his wife's help for 2 years.
So wait, Brenda, hold on 1 second. Just so I'm following, but just in case anybody got lost, Farrell is the guy who lost the court date.
Yeah, correct.
So he's the guy who
owned the land,
bought the land, lost the court date, lost 50 acres, and in attacking the family back and forth, he was murdered by the family, by the squatting family.
Yeah, okay. So Donnelly...
the squatters killed the landowner.
Well, right. James Donnelly, he was attacked by Farrell. Farrell threw the first spike at him, and then James grabbed another spike, apparently this is lying around the ground, and threw one in Farrell, hit him, and killed him. Right.
Why are there just spikes laying around everywhere? What is going on?
I see like a lot of random leaves, maybe some trash on the ground. I've never seen a hand spike up here.
Damn it.
I've never even seen a hand spike. I didn't know what a spike was.
Now, I've never been to Bidoff. I don't know if you're from Bidoff. If you want to go and comment, leave a comment in the comments.
Lots of vampires in Bidoff.
No,
makes sense.
And the ice sometimes it's not melted yet. Come on, let me. I'm just assuming.
I need more ice.
There's no heaters. There's no self-heating. Everything is frozen there during the kind of winter, so you got to walk with your ice pack in case you need to free your car up.
Yeah, like the cheese. I don't know why these are everywhere, but either way. So 2 years later, James turned himself in, and he was sentenced to hang in 1859.
Oh.
But his wife Joanna, she submitted a petition for clemency, which means James had his sentence reduced to 7 years in Kingston Penitentiary in Kingston. But I've been to that prison. It's now a historical monument, and I'm telling you, it's a historical monument. I went for a tour, and I'm telling you, that was not the place to be put in. 7 years there is like Alcatraz. Not good.
Oof.
So meanwhile.
Wait, 7 years for murder?
Because he got clemency.
Yeah, clemency.
Right.
So for it being self-defense?
Yes.
Okay.
So fast forward.
Yeah.
Now we're in 1873. The Donnelly stagecoach line was started by James's son, William, and it was massively successful. Now, William managed this company with his brothers, Michael, John, and Thomas. And this company was rivaling the official stagecoach line that was in place already. Now you can see there's problems.
Yes, 100%.
So the competition actually fell under pressure, and they sold their company to another guy, Patrick Flanagan, who was determined to drive the Donnellys out of business. So now this set a stage for a feud between the Donnelly stagecoaches and the Flanagan and Crawley stagecoach, and these guys took it to a whole new level. They were smashing each other's property, burning it down. They would beat horses and kill them. They would burn stables to the ground. But here's the thing. All the community blamed everything on the Donnellys.
Oh, right, because it's easy.
Because his dad was a killer.
Right.
They're all bad. Hence
all
why
bad,
the name Black Donnellys.
Oh.
Right? So it's all their fault. Yeah, we're doing burning stuff too, but it's all their fault.
Yeah.
So tensions started to build, and their reputation, the Donnellys, started to slide. And as these tensions were built, they started getting charged with a whole bunch of stuff that was proven to be in court not to be true. And I'm going to tell you some of the things. Arson, assault, trespassing, verbal assault, attempted murder, theft, robbery, and assaulting a police officer. But every single time they went to court, innocent.
Okay, wait, hold on. So when you say they would just randomly pin them on any member of the family, or
Correct.
just okay, got it.
They were just going after everybody at this point.
They could. All right.
So by the time they hit 1879 in June, Father John Connolly decided to create what he called, so he was ran the parish, and he called what he called the Peace Society in the county after he started preaching to his parish about all this bad activity happening and his thoughts of who was responsible, which is really great for a minister to do. I think he did it, and he did it. Probably the Donnellys.
Yeah, probably them. Yeah,
probably them.
Oh God! And so you know what? That probably incited the Furies. And I see where this is going. Oh,
but he got even worse. He decided to make everyone pledge support by having their homes searched for stolen property. Bad idea. But out of this group came another group, and they called this the Vigilance Committee. And evidence shows that members of both of these entities were the ones that was responsible for most of the crimes in the area.
I see.
It's about to get worse. The Donnellys.
So, hold on one second. The Vigilance, they have no affiliation with either the state or the church, correct?
They were organized within the church.
Within the church, got it.
Right, but they are not sanctioned by the church.
Got it.
You'll see
so
why.
They use the opportunity to be even more poop heads.
Pretty much.
All
so
right.
Here's the thing where it's about to get bad. The Donnellys decided not to sign this pledge. And honestly, the reason why makes a lot of sense. They were afraid that the community was just going to use this as an opportunity to bring stolen property onto their land and set them up, which was completely possible. So
and completely correct.
It's probably right. Yeah. And on top of this, to make it worse, James Donnelly stood up in a church service to denounce the priest himself, who began to start preaching hatred against the Protestants during his own services, due to a lot of the Donnellys were actually friends with Protestants. But not only that, he didn't like how the minister was denouncing anybody, not them. So he decided to donate money to build an Anglican church, and that made the society very angry.
Wow.
So all this boiled over on February 3rd, 1880.
Nothing worse than religious politics.
Oh,
no, every time you hear like
it's almost like we have to remind the peaceful religious people to please be peaceful. But I'm just saying.
Well, considering they're called the Peace Society, wait till you find out when they decide to take action what they do.
Of course, in the name of God.
Their original plan was to visit the Donnelly family late at night, handcuff the male members of the household, and then just hang them from a tree by the neck until they confessed all the crimes, but they were only going to hurt them. How are you going to confess with a noose around your neck?
Yeah.
So this is what happened pretty much? Oh my God. What happened to the women?
Oh, it gets worse. This didn't happen. This would have been good.
Oh, this
gets worse.
It's worse than that? Oh, God.
It's worse. Like I said, buckle up. It's about to get bad. So the Peace Society decided they're going to set up a surveillance on the property of the Donnellys to determine who's going to be home and when, and how to enter their property without being detected. So on February 2nd, James and his son went to town to pick up a young boy. He was a relative of theirs, and his name was Johnny O'Connor. Now, Johnny was going to stay overnight because the next day, the family was going to go to court for the latest round of fake charges.
Right.
So at 1 a.m. on February 3rd, the Peace Society decided to get together, and they started drinking to gain their courage. And then they decided to mount their attack. When they got drunk enough, they went to the Donnellys' home, surrounded the perimeter of the property, and Constable James Carroll entered the unlocked home, because who locked their doors back then?
Constable. Okay.
He was the police.
Of
And
course.
he
Yeah.
then handcuffed James and Joanna's son, Tom, who was asleep. So he snuck in and slipped some cuffs on
The kid?
they're all adults at this point.
Okay.
So he handcuffs Tom. Now, when he was doing this, after he finished, the constable woke Tom up and said he's under arrest. And that woke up Joanna and her niece, Bridget, who was visiting from Ireland. It also woke up John, who asked Constable Carroll, what's the charges this time? And then Tom said, you need to read the arrest warrant. And there was none. So he gave the signal to the Peace Society to storm the house with their clubs. Now, this is about to get bad. This is when they started beating. The vigilantes was beating John, Joanna, and Tom. Now, Bridget ran, and she ran upstairs and hid under a bed. Johnny also hid. But here's the thing. He climbed underneath John Donnelly's bed, but the men didn't know he was there at all. They didn't see him entering the property, so they didn't go looking for this kid. Now, they did see Bridget, and that's the problem. So John Donnelly, they hit him repeatedly in the head until he died. Joanna, she fought really hard against her attackers, and she was killed by Constable Carroll. Tom.
I mean, for fighting back, always fight back, please.
Yeah,
Continue.
and she tried, but there was just too many people.
Of course.
Tom, he broke free from his attackers and started to run towards the front door, but as he was running away, somebody stabbed him multiple times with a pitchfork. When he fell, can you tell this is kind of a redneck story a little bit? They're going with clubs and pitchforks. It's like Frankenstein's monster.
We've upgraded from pikes at least.
Yeah, it's an upgrade. So when Tom fell to the ground, they carried his body into the kitchen where they already moved the rest of the bodies. They removed the handcuffs. And when they did, they hit Tom a couple more times in the head just to make sure he was dead. And then they went to look for Bridget and they beat her to death. Now, while this was going on, sorry, I'm going to apologize now.
No, don't. Keep
the
talking.
family's dog was barking. So
they killed him too.
They killed him and decapitated him.
Yeah.
Threw him with the rest of the bodies. And they decided to go and start the house on fire because they came up with a new plan. We're going to burn this place down. And why don't we just kill the rest of the Donnellys? We're just going to get rid of the community problem tonight. So after they left the burning house, Johnny was able to escape the burning home and he went and ran for help. Meanwhile, the Peace Society went to a place called Wayland Corners nearby. That is where John Jr., the guy who had the stagecoach company, lived. They surrounded his house. So they were trying to get Will out, who also lived there. Instead of storming the home this time, because I think they were just tired from all the killing. That takes a lot of effort, a lot of calories. So they decided to try to call him out. So how are we going to do this? They decided to beat his prize horse. But the problem is the barn was too far away, so he never heard anything. So one guy, oh, by the way, the spoiler alert, the horse lived. Okay. So at least that's good. Yeah. So one of the guys decided to go to the house. He's carrying a shotgun and he started calling for Will. When Will heard somebody calling for him, it wasn't him that answered the door, it was his brother John. He opened the door and he got hit by the shotgun blast. He got hit in the chest, the groin, and he had basically catastrophic damage. He fell to the ground. They decided that wasn't enough. They're going to shoot him some more for the crimes he did, which there's no proof he did anything. And they shot him 7 more times.
Eesh.
So at this point, Will's wife, Nora, she heard all of this and she was trying to sneak and grab John Jr. and try to pull him in to save him, but she couldn't move he was just dead weight. She couldn't move him himself. So she came in to hide. Now, Will was in hiding, but he was able to look out the window to see who was doing this. And one of those people, the Peace Society, guess who it was? It was Nora's brother.
Look at that.
Now, they decided they were getting a little tired from all this murdering because, again, like...
It's because, do you guys know who Nora's brother is?
I might be a little lost. Who is Nora's brother?
Nora's brother. Nora was the wife of one of the Donnellys.
Yes.
Yes. Her own brother was in on it.
Oh,
yes.
So,
yes.
So they're getting all tired from all this murdering. It takes a lot of effort. Yeah. So they decided just to survey the perimeter and wait until somebody came outside. They'd come out eventually, right? Well, after 3 hours, they're like, nah, I'm tired. It's like 3 a.m. I need a nap. So they went home. But the next day, Johnny, Will, and his wife, Nora, they all went to the local magistrate and said, look, this is what happened. Everybody's dead. Now, even though it was said that up to 35 men participated in these murders, there was only Constable Carroll and 5 other men from the Peace Society that was arrested, which tells you a lot about the policing at that time.
Yeah.
They pulled the same act with the circus riots. Like,
Yeah.
I remember.
So at trial, one of the key witnesses was Johnny O'Connor because he was in the house. He's seen everything. Now, the vigilantes, they did literally everything they could to prevent this kid from testifying in court, including threatening his family's lives and burning down his parents' house.
Oh, so religious. Yeah.
Yeah. So William testified.
Religious.
No, I'm just saying. It's
Really?
always the
Yes.
same people.
Yeah, these are the ones that were from the Peace Society. The irony. So William also testified in this, and he too suffered massive retaliation. So the funny thing is, all the defense witnesses were family and friends of the vigilante community, and they backed every single alibi of people on trial.
Of course.
So, first trial, believe it or not, was a hung jury. But one of the jurors went and told the press that he would not convict any of them, even if he witnessed the murders himself, because the Donnellys are all bad. Now, in the second trial, it actually was the judge gave instructions to the jury that they couldn't listen at all to any of Johnny's testimony. Do you want to know why?
Well, because he's in on it too.
No, Johnny was the kid in the house.
But so the judge said, don't listen to anything of that Johnny has to say.
Correct. You want to know why? His mom attempted to get paid for his testimony because her house got burnt down. So they said, nope, she tried to get paid. It's fake. Nope. So because of this, Constable Carroll and the 5 men were declared to be not guilty. And believe it or not, when this was announced in the public, the community held a party that lasted a full day and night.
That's extreme hate, like you say.
Good thing the police got so reformed a few years later, because just look at the corruption. And granted, this isn't in the same province, right?
Yep.
And that's why it is. That's why.
And fairly near, actually.
Should be separated. We need. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's actually where this took place. It's not far from Toronto.
Oh, well. Wow.
Now, interestingly, this whole story is really deeply embedded in Canadian folklore. But the inhabitants of that township for years tried to suppress that subject because a lot of the residents' ancestors directly were involved in the murder. So they were trying to keep it quiet. But in the most, I could say, last 20 years or so, business started up centered on this tragedy. Multiple songs and books have been released about it. And in 2007, NBC released a TV series called The Black Donnellys based on this story. And in 2017, a film was released about this. So if you want to see this homestead, you can take a tour of it. But people claim a lot of supernatural events take place on these tours, so be aware. Now,
I'm not even surprised. I'd be pissed too.
Like I would.
What? I got hit in the head. I'm not leaving.
You killed my dog. I'm gonna haunt you forever.
I'm here. Right.
So at the Donnelly homestead, they claim that items go missing all the time and found in other places, doors slam by themselves. People hear footsteps from unseen sources, as well as they report being touched by unseen hands. Individuals also claim to hear voices talking at the middle of the night, and they hear screaming from the barn. They also claim that they're being watched by unseen eyes from the barn. So you're probably saying, why the barn?
Well, because the horse, the horse, right?
No, but you're close.
Okay.
The reason is the homestead burnt down, the house burnt down. The only original structure left is the barn.
So all the spirits went and refuged there.
They're either in the barn or they're in the house itself. Now, interestingly, on top of this, people report seeing shadow people all over that property and ghostly figures of the Donnellys. Now, the people who bought the property after the Donnellys, they called a local priest to bless the property because they wanted to give the Donnelly family their last rites. But even so, it's still haunted out of the bejesus today.
100%.
I don't blame them.
I don't blame them. I'm not leaving.
Now, on top of this, the very road by where the vigilantes walked down that night is also said to be haunted. It is said that horses will not go down the road on that night of February 3rd. If they do, their horses would die afterwards, very soon afterwards. They also say horses will not walk on the old Donnelly property at all. And just in case you want some more ghosts, people report seeing headless horses galloping through that township, and live horses go berserk on a regular basis for reasons unknown. I think that is the revenge for the Peace Society beating Will's horse.
I believe in revenge. So, I'm all out for that. That's right. Hunt the hell out of that place forever. Haunt.
Haunt 'em?
Ooh, haunt.
See,
Yeah.
I have my plans for haunting anyway, and I've had nothing bad happen to me. I have a death
What's the
plan.
plan?
Well, here's the why. My husband's an atheist. So,
Oh,
I am gonna haunt the bejesus, but I'm only willing to spend like a week or two because if heaven exists, it's gonna be a cool place. So I'm willing to only give like 2 weeks max. But my plan is every time he gets in the shower, just ghostly rip open the shower and say, boo.
but what if he slips and fall?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, and then and then he wakes up saying, "Look what you did to me, Brenda."
Do you know what he says to me when I told him that? He goes,
What?
well, at least if I poop my own pants, I'm in the shower.
No, good point.
Yeah, that good point. And I says, okay, so when
Priorities.
you're sleeping, you're going to open your eyes and my face is going to be ghostly hovering over yours. And he's like,
That-
you do that a lot now. I'm good with it. I'm like, you're making this haunting not so fun.
You guys have an interesting marriage. You're hovering your face above his head while he's sleeping. What?
He's sleeping.
Are ya? Are ya? Poke. Are you awake? Poke. Are you awake? Poke. But needless to say, I told him I'm haunting him for a week. That's it.
1 week.
I'm really, well, maybe 2 if it's fun. Because I think scaring
I'd
him is
say
going to be a
forever.
lot of fun. It will.
I say forever. I'm like, where are you going? You're certainly not dating anybody else, though. Mhm.
I'm good with that.
Nope.
You
Wait,
can find
what? You
someone
don't
else.
you don't want your spouse to move on, Alistair? It's like that's it. You're done. You're cut off from that forever.
As long as he just sets up a shrine to me in the corner of the
That's
house
right.
and prays to me every day, I'm fine with
That's
it.
right. Oh, my
Praise
picture on the
to you every
wall.
day.
No, I'm being ridiculous.
Well, what a fun little story. Bonus
Yeah.
story.
But
from
it does
Verifying
show
History.
a point. The police service in Canada was massively corrupt in the
Yeah.
1800s. Massively.
I don't think it's any different today. What did I just say?
I
Oh,
never said it,
God.
but maybe so.
Oh, wow. It was just a
Yeah.
joke, everybody.
Maybe.
You know, I almost said too when we were talking about police reform and like, oh wow, thank God they did so much good work and it's so much better nowadays. And it's like, is it like, yeah.
Now, did you pick this orange story purposely?
Well, okay.
Because of
When I
what-
was asked to
what's
go
going
on,
Because
I
it's
was-
very similar to what's yeah.
I
Orange
just
story?
thought I would go and tell I just wanted to tell my 2 favorite Canadiana
got it.
bad stories.
Okay,
It's just by coincidence that they're
Just by
both about police
coincidence.
corruption.
got it.
By
Okay.
coincidence. Mm-hmm.
Look at us talking in riddles because we're scared. I don't blame
Well,
us.
We should
Oh.
have invited Brad on if we were going to get so deep into Canada true crime. He's like you and Brad are like a resident Canadian.
That's right,
true
Brad.
Italian, yeah.
Oh, then he knows all about the Donnellys.
Our Canadian true crime correspondents up there. You know,
Our
next time there's
correspondent.
never, yeah.
I'm
Next
the
time there's
spooky correspondent and true
Yeah.
crimes correspondent.
yeah. When we cover Carla and what's his name?
Oh, the Ken and Barbies?
The
yeah.
kidnappers or whatever. When we cover them, we'll
Paul
have to bring you
Bernardo?
guys back. Yeah, Bernardo, that's him. Yep.
I'm actually planning to do I think it's next or May. I'm planning to do an episode on it. And a lot of people have asked me to. And there's a lot of Canadian stories they asked me to, but there are specific reasons I put certain things off. And one is that one because I remember that happening when I was a teenager and it really affected me.
Scary.
Yeah.
But another one I've been asked to do, this is going to sound horrible. It's about a person who was in the military who was a base commander and he.
Yeah, Williamson. We talked about that last
Yeah,
time. You're
and
connected to that.
I still haven't gotten to being able to do a story because I was involved.
Yeah.
And the third one I promise, and I will do, and I'm getting to it, and I haven't planned for this coming year, is Clifford Olson, who was one of the first well-noted serial killers in Canada. And the reason is he killed my mother's cousin.
Jeez.
So that's why I've
The
kind of.
name sounds familiar. How would I know him?
Wait. So this is really home. Like you
Mhm.
could call your mama and be like, "Mama, what's 1, 2, 3?" Because oh wow, interesting.
Well, Clifford Olson, he ended up getting a hold of my mom's cousin before, I was quite young. And that's where I think kind of my true crime thing started because I remember, this is going to sound really strange. My grandmother loved her newspapers, and which was the World News, the National Enquirer, the National Star. She didn't actually read real newspapers, but
I was gonna say National Enquirer. That's like the aliens have landed.
Well, why do you think I'm so weird? Is because she didn't have books as a kid, and I like reading. So she's like, "Here, read my newspapers." I'm like, "Oh my God, Elvis is alive!" And he's
I
a
have
dairy
never
farmer in
heard the
Kansas?
National Enquirer
Dairy
referred
farmer.
to as a newspaper before.
But I remember one specific day, and I was quite young. I was like 7, 8 years old. And they had one of these and it was out on the table. And she's like, "No, Brenda, you shouldn't read that." And I says, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "And that's who told me the story. That's your mom. That's your mom's cousin. And they found her under a haystack." And I'm like, "What? What?" But here's this crazy thing that is not released about the press with that. This was, again, way back when. But what happened is this guy was allowed to write whoever he wanted, and he would write the victim's parents. And so therefore, he wrote my mom's aunt all the time, and she would talk to the Canadian prison system like, "Please, can you stop him? Because he's saying he's going to get out. He's coming to my house. That my daughter was his favorite." All this stuff, like graphic.
Oh my God.
And they're like, "No, we can't stop him. It's his rights to send mail." So what happened is she actually had to change her name and
Well,
move.
it's I was gonna say it's his right to send mail, but it's not her right to receive it. Like she can block.
They can block that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even seeing it would traumatize her. So she ended up changing her name and
Like
moving.
why is her right to feel safe and free superseded by his right to? That's dumb.
And that's a very good question. And that's one question that we're talking about in today's times. It seems that there's a big opinion here in Canada that the perpetrators have more rights than the victims and their families.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
please. It's because there's no political will to put effort into updating the laws. My God, we can go on and on and on. And it's not
Oh,
going to
it could
change in
be
our
for
life.
weeks.
It's not going to change in our lifetime. So don't hold
Yep.
your breath because you'll die.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I think I was just kind of like at a very early age made to like spooky because my grandma in those magazines. But the true crime, I think it started there because I was fascinated by this cousin I never met.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of where things started. So thanks, National Enquirer.
Wow.
And to think like that her picture was on the National Enquirer.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that's how I seen it. It had Clifford Olson, Canadian government gives him $10 million to say where the bodies are. Yeah, so him and his family got rich.
Well, we'll have to
Oh.
cover that sometime on the show and get you back on here.
I will do that one next time.
There you go.
Okay.
But I'll try to. It's going to be hard. I'll have to start with a couple jokes though, because it's dark.
Yeah, and I'm sure you probably asked your mother for all the extra details because you were too young to remember clearly and vividly. So there'll be some nuances that nobody will really know besides you, ish, right? Oh boy. Well,
we don't have a ton of time left. I did want to get into one of our favorite games we play in the show before we wrap up, and that's everybody's favorite game.
Random questions.
And it's really simple. We just play a game where we ask 5 random questions. Sound good?
I'll try. I'm in.
It's not hard. You just answer them. Really simple.
Uh-oh. Is it about clowns?
I don't have any clown questions queued up.
Okay, let's
But
go.
I think you'll like these.
Okay.
Question number 1, and this is true crime adjacent, so there you go. We're kind of in the same neighborhood. If you could choose to have any cold case ever solved, which one would it be and why?
John Benet Ramsey.
That's a good choice.
And the reason is that little girl,
Yeah.
whatever happened to her was hellish.
Yeah.
And I think that she deserves to and her family too, if depending, they do deserve to know.
Who do you think did it?
That's a hard thing to say because there was so much evidence tainted.
That's what I was literally about to say. Is that's why that's such a good choice, because there's so much evidence that points in so many different directions.
Yeah.
Like you really could come up with a theory and have pretty substantial
Everyone.
for like a bunch of different ways, and have substantial, whether it be circumstantial or even physical evidence to purport your theory, whether it's the dad, the mom, the brother, actual ransom takers or whatever. So
I don't know.
Choice.
My personal belief is it's had to be somebody who had access to the house.
Well, yeah, me too. So
That could be.
I'm looking at the father a little bit crazy.
It's hard to tell, but it was somebody in the house. And I just honestly think that little girl deserves justice. And it's been so long. Like, to be in your own house and found in that way.
Yeah. That was the craziest part. She was there the whole time.
She was in the basement.
Yeah.
How did you not notice that?
Yeah, how did they bungle that?
It's because
did you not notice the guy walking in with a carpet past you? Like,
yeah. Yeah. it's just sometimes with parenting you're exhausting. She's like, oh, they must be sleeping early.
Well, no, I'm saying in reference to the cops. Why didn't they do a full search of
You
the
didn't
property when
look
they got
through
there?
the house?
Yeah, what the? And it's not like she wasn't
hidden.
Yeah,
No.
she was like.
No, she wasn't hidden.
How did they find her in the basement? Wasn't she? I mean, I hate to get dark, but wasn't she like strung up?
She wasn't. She went. Well, I do know that she was partially unclothed, and wasn't she found by one
Yeah,
of the
she was
parents?
sexually assaulted first, and then she
Yeah.
was. I think they like
A ligature of some type. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But that's
an
the
awful
case I really
story.
would like, because again, she's a little girl, and I think that everybody has
Yeah.
that image of their head of this little pageant queen.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that I really wish that wouldn't be solved.
Same.
Yeah.
Good choice.
And you answered that quick, so it is you. It
She had some thought about it, but
it was-
again, it's
Not at all.
Yes, honey, it was like blah, 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 blah.
It's a
Yeah,
good
you were like this one.
Yes. Choice number one, and the only choice. That one.
all right. Question 2. What's your go-to Dunkin' Donuts order?
I don't have Dunkin' Donuts around me.
Oh my god!
We have a couple, but that's a U.S. one. We have
How did I
Tim
not-
Hortons. We have Tim Hortons.
my
and we have
God.
Starbucks. Like Second Cup.
Oh,
Let
wait,
me-
hold on. Yeah, no. This is completely
Let's switch it to
translatable. Yeah, what's your favorite?
Starbucks.
What's your go-to Tim Hortons order?
I don't. Tim Hortons.
Okay,
I only eat their
Starbucks.
donuts. Their coffee's
Starbucks.
crap.
What's your go-to Starbucks? order?
Starbucks. Do you know about the secret menu?
No,
No.
but I have heard that fast food places do have secret menus.
Well.
What's on the Starbucks secret menu?
Starbucks has a lot of things on the secret menu. They don't have our pumpkin spice lattes, I asked, but they have the peppermint mocha. You just order a normal mocha
Ooh,
and then add a
yummy.
couple pumps of peppermint, which they have all year, and then you have Christmas all year round.
Oh, that's so delicious and sugary.
I know,
Love
it's so great. That's my
That's
go-to.
lovely.
Had one today. It was
So
great.
good.
Nice.
Your brain goes, oh yeah.
It's like
What were you thinking? Right, like keep going.
every
Don't
time
really-
I take a
stop.
sip of it, I'm thinking like, this is like 1,000 calories, and
Amazing.
I
Yeah, I know. They're
care.
less coffees than they are milkshakes. Like
They're like coffee-based,
Yep.
sugar-based
Yeah.
milkshakes. It's so
Yeah.
great.
And your brain says, come on, don't stop.
Bring it
better not
on.
stop.
I'm on like a real healthy eating food binge for the past like month, and I went and got a coffee this afternoon, and of course I got like the syrup or whatever, and I took one sip, and it was just like,
Your brain
oh
was
my
like,
god, sugar! I forgot. I love you, my best friend.
it's like one of those hair commercials when you sip it. Oh
Yeah.
wow.
I was actually on a.
Right.
My husband was deployed for a couple months. I phoned a friend of mine. He's a professional trainer for bodybuilding competitions. I'm like, dude, I have 3 months. Let's cut some abs. Let's do it. The diet I called the survivor diet because it was
Yeah.
fish and rice and starvation. And
Yeah.
I dropped so much weight that I didn't have an ab. Here's why. My body is just, it won't show them.
Oh.
A lot of people have that problem.
The second my husband came home, I'm like, I'm going to Starbucks. I want like a double cappuccino with a like
It was the
extra
sugar.
sugary.
Most people are
crap.
like, oh, I want the big cheeseburger and the fries or a pizza. No,
Bring
just
me
get-
sugar.
Yeah. You're like,
I've
me, you got
eaten
the sweet
fish
tooth.
and rice. That's it.
And air, don't forget air.
Yeah.
And the other
Lots
thing,
of
my
water.
treat was cottage cheese. And to this day, I can't eat cottage cheese.
Yummy.
I can't do it.
I love cottage cheese. It's got good protein in it. Anyway.
3 months of cottage cheese every single day.
Yeah,
No.
you'll get sick of it pretty quick.
Can't do it. It's a texture
Man,
now.
cottage cheese, rice, and fish. That sounds like a stinky diet. Put it that way.
It was 2.5 hours a gym a day. Still couldn't cut abs.
Wow.
So I gave up.
2.5 hours of gym? That's insane.
That was because my husband was deployed. What else am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I said, let's
Still,
see if it can
2.5
happen.
hours? That's like being counterproductive at that point.
My back looked amazing.
Okay.
My abs,
Okay. My back looked amazing. Like back or back?
my back. Like, look,
Okay.
you could see the muscles cut on
Okay,
my
so
back.
back,
and my
back. Okay.
bicep was cut, but
Okay.
abs, nope.
She was like Will Smith and I Am Legend, just like jumping.
I was cut everywhere but here. But
All
let me
right.
tell you, that diet sucked.
I bet. Question 3. What would your weapon of choice be in the zombie apocalypse?
Oh.
Well, I don't have a weapon necessarily a choice, but I would lean towards more of a physical based weapon because you're going to run out of ammo eventually. You can tell I put too much thought into it.
Like a whip.
No, I would go with like good old lawn implements, like like a hoe and a rake and an axe. But my first stop,
something where you could create distance is probably a good idea.
Yeah, so my first choice I would go over to a place we call here called Canadian Tire that has a lot of lawn stuff. So I would pick up guns because they have guns, ammo, and I would pick out every
You only get one. You get one.
gardening thing I can.
BP's like, girl, slow down.
No.
You only get one.
Then I'm going to take them all. Then I'm going to Costco. And I'm going to close
your game,
that
fuck your rules. I'm telling you all about my zombie setup.
Costco, they have those big metal gates that come down, and you got easy 10 years of stuff there, and they have beds and TVs.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what mine will be? A shovel. Are you ready? You want to tell me why? Because I'm going to make a moat. Please. I'm shoveling. I'm like, okay, Beefy, you watch out for noises.
They have that survival shovel that folds up, but also is all sharp, so you can.
No, I'm digging myself a moat.
I have one of those.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Is you could dig, but you could also use it as a weapon.
But they're short-handled. You're not going to get the distance.
That's true.
I have one because I have a metal detector.
Oh.
I bought one for myself. I've wanted one since I was a kid, and I decided for Christmas I'm buying myself a metal detector.
Nice. Fun hobby. You can find all kinds of cool stuff.
You know what I found so far? 21 cents. It's very exciting.
Hey, that's a lot of money.
Wait, aren't they called loonies? Loonies and
toonies? I haven't found a loony. That's all. I found 2 dimes and.
By the way, can I just say, Canada, what are you doing? It's like you want us to make fun of you. Your money is called Looney Toonies.
No, it's called a loony and a toonie. So let me explain the logic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Big difference there. My mistake.
We also like to laugh at ourselves. So the loony is named.
You guys put your milk into sacks.
Well, I'll explain that too. So the loony has a loon on it, and hence we called it the loony, and it's stuck. And then the toonie
is worth 2, so it's a toonie.
Toonie. So that's why we call them that. And
okay. I want to hear this wild justification for milk sacks because there is no justification for putting milk in a sack.
Be clear. In certain parts of Canada, east, it's in bags. You can get cartons. In the West, it's just cartons. So it's nice on a recyclable way. You just have this little piece of plastic, but it's a pain in the butt. Good thing I don't drink a lot of milk. You have to cut both ends because it will make it pour. Then you put it in a container. It's just, and on the news 2 days ago, they're talking of getting rid of the bags.
Thank
I
God.
think it's just what's most available in the area. It's the easiest. It's the path of least resistance in the area. For some reason, maybe the areas they just.
You're
make more
telling me the rest of the world has adopted the single-gallon carton, and
we have those too.
For whatever reason, in this specific area of Canada, there's a shortage of milk cartons, and they can only put it in grocery bags.
It's just dumb. Honestly, it's dumb.
It is dumb. Thank you.
So they're announcing that they want to get rid of it, but not for the reason you think, because they're stupid.
So is the Looney Toonies, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it's good.
But
you want
to be fair, you guys
do
a lot better than we do.
The reason why they're so great, the Loonies and Toonies, is firstly, is because it was made for the blind. So they can tell the differences, right? So that's why it has the shapes and sat to it. So I think that's kind of cool. But going back to the milk, which is stupid, I can't wait for them to get rid of it. But the reason why they're talking of getting rid of it, because a law came down a couple months ago that we are not allowed to have any, they call the single-use plastics, no plastic grocery bags.
That's good.
No straws. We're all pissed about the straws. Those paper straws suck.
Yeah, they don't work.
We get now wood cutlery that can't pick up anything, but I do like the takeout containers that are biodegradable.
Massachusetts has adopted a lot of those, and honestly, there are good choices, but those wood straws.
So if any of you want to buy me some straws and send them, I'll have.
That's what I was about to say. Honestly, is get the metal straw and just they have a little travel kit with the cutlery.
I have them, but I don't like the metal straws. You have to clean it. You know what? I want to protect turtles, but I like a plastic straw.
Yeah.
There's this company here based in Europe. It's called Sondas, and they would have their utensils and straws out of pretty much like a cookie, so you could eat it when you're done with it.
Kind of like that.
Yeah, and it tastes just like a cracker, and so you it reacts to water. So obviously, as you eat your food, as there's more moisture over time, it gets softer and softer. And then when you're done with your meal, you can. So with the straw, you have about 30 minutes before it becomes useless. But who takes 30 minutes to drink their drink, right? So then
Some
after,
people,
really?
I get a nice coffee.
Okay, then I guess you get 2 straws. So when you're done,
I get 2 cookies.
You eat your straw, you get the other one. Yeah, it was absolutely.
So Charlotte's
genius.
saying in France they completely got rid of plastic already.
Yeah. That's
true.
true.
Yeah, she showed me a picture of the plastic the France version of the plastic McDonald's toy, and it's like a little cardboard like foldable figure. It's so weird. The McDonald's toys in France, they're really cool
though.
They really need to go up their game on those paper straws, because if you put it in a drink,
whoever can come up with an alternative,
something better.
Yeah,
I'm voting for cookie straws.
The cookie straw. It was made in India, but
there's got to be a better way. Like somebody out there needs to develop a better answer between the plastic straw and the cookie straw. That doesn't.
Coming.
Yeah, they'll figure something out.
Not even a hard. I'm looking at the note. Not even a hard box for burgers. Ours are still like our takeout containers are still firm and recyclable and everything, which is fantastic. But those straws.
Yeah, you can. I mean, McDonald's has the cardboard. Yeah.
Or when you have like a coffee and you have like the stir stick and it's no longer plastic but it's paper and you're trying to stir your coffee and it's just like here's this big string of paper. I'm not a fan.
Well, you can just use the wood ones. All right. Well, question 4 is very relatable to what we're talking about now. What's something that Canada does better than America?
Well, it's not paper straws.
That's true.
But honestly, I like our money.
And you can't say the healthcare.
You said you like your money? Wait.
Here's
hold on
why.
one second. Can I just
wait, the money?
A joke. Yeah,
not when it's valued, not the value of it.
Oh yeah, look. Let me tell you a funny story that happened to me last week about Canadian money. We just got an invoice, and it's funny because it was a big number, and then I looked at it and I was like, and then my guy was like, it's in Canadian dollars. Like, oh, not so bad.
I won the lotto.
Oh wow, I'm looking this up. It's very colorful. It's like a rainbow.
So now you see why I like it. When I go to America, like for example, go on vacation, whatever, all your money looks the same. It's the same
Yeah, it's all
color.
green.
I like.
But I'll show this in the
blue.
screen here. Look how colorful this is.
Blue is a 5, 10 is purple. It's so easy. Your 20s are green, and the cool thing is they have little pictures of Canadian history on it. They're really cool, and they've actually won awards around the world.
We have that in America too.
Yeah, but your guys is not the same. It looks like ours. People could use us of saying it looks like Monopoly money, but a lot of countries are copying us.
Queen Elizabeth on the 20. She's not even Canadian.
Well, well, the thing is, she is our sovereign due to we're in the Commonwealth.
I can hear the backpedaling going on. Well.
No, there's no backpedaling. But she is getting off of it now, and now the new one starting this, like as soon as she died, is King Charles.
Charles on there.
Yeah. I thought they're voting to be done with that.
Here? No.
Yeah, they're no longer.
They're going to replace Queen Elizabeth with just the face of a loon.
No, we complain about it.
They're going to put the maple leaf over the Queen's face on all this.
Yeah, we complain about that. We don't need a monarchy, but nobody actually does something. We just complain and say sorry a lot, and
it doesn't hurt. It's so far away. It really doesn't. Yeah.
We're max relaxed. We're like, it's a queen, so.
All right, I got to go here pretty soon. So last question. You're at a party and the host asks you to DJ. What song are you picking first?
I have just watched a show on Netflix called The Downfall of the House of Usher. And if you can listen to that soundtrack, I was instantly hooked. I had to download it because they have. I should look it up on Amazon here or my music here.
I heard it's really good.
It's awesome. They have a couple remixes, and one of them was Pink Floyd "The Wall."
Yeah.
And that one, and it's more of a dance version. Excellent.
I was going to say you're going to play The Wall at a part, but a dance version of that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah,
the music is really
by Melon and the Dance. Who the heck are these guys? Melon and the Dance Fruities? Huh. Yeah, so it's actually excellent. And so I downloaded a lot of it.
Just like right in the chamber. It was almost like you knew these questions.
Yeah, I downloaded
it last night at 2 a.m.
I was like,
Brenda, every single one of these questions, you're just like, ready to go.
I'm decisive.
You know what that means? That means Brenda knows what the hell she wants. That's why.
I do. I'm decisive.
But
have you watched The House of Usher?
Yes.
Did you like it?
I liked it.
I watched
love-
Usher at halftime show and it was completely mid, so I'm off Usher for a while.
It's basically a series. It's by the directors of the guys who did the House on Haunted Hill and stuff like that.
Yes.
And basically what they did is they took all the Edgar Allan Poe most famous
One of my favorite authors, by the way.
right. And they basically made made them interconnected to an episode about a family.
Yeah.
Excellent show. Watch it. And the
Watch it.
soundtrack.
And if you've read Edgar Allan Poe, or if you know about it, it's going to even tickle your brain
Yes.
more.
I loved the
Like,
ending.
oh my god! Yeah!
Go Raven, go!
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, great
No.
answers. Okay.
Amazing
Well, why don't we wrap this up here, Alistair, and bring us our final.
The final thought.
okay. So look, of course, I had to be a daddy for about 25 minutes, but I came back just in time, and I'm a king of notes. Listen, the story we listened were atrocious, of course, but it had one common denominator. What is that? Both stories dealt with one important issue, which is oppression. What? Oppression? What are you talking about? Hold on one second. In both instances, there was an idea or a sense of oppressing. And if you don't know what I'm telling you right now, oppressing never works, because at the end of the day, people will be fed up and had enough, and they'll come out and do something about it. And so I say all this to say, just be as considerate as you can, because at the end of the day, you're going to lose if your goal is to oppress. You're not going to win. You're not going to make it. Stop fighting it. Just surrender to the power of niceness and cookies and spice and the Powerpuff Girls. That's it.
Nice.
And don't forget, plastic straws rule.
Plastic.
And milk bags drool. Literally, they leak.
Yeah,
They're bad.
they
They're
like
terrible.
literally do.
That's so good. Wow, what a great brainwave sync. Hey, another really fun note before we leave here. Did you know that brainwaves can be measured but cannot really be explained? Which means that we can all be somewhat talking to one another without realizing that we're talking to one another. Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
Mhm.
my brainwaves are telling you something very important. Can you pick up what my brainwaves are telling you, Alistair?
Yes, I will. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Press like, subscribe. I want to say a big yeah, it's funny. I want to say a big thank you to Brenda. Brenda, thank you so much for joining in. And of course, I want to thank all of you guys for
Oh yeah, really quick, Brenda, you did so much research in preparation for this show, and you really just jumped in and took these stories by the balls. And I just want to thank you so much for being so involved and passionate about this stuff. And it was great to have you. And we'll hopefully have you back here. Just thank you so much for everything you did. This was great.
Yeah, but the
No.
clown balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to.
By Schmeckles, yeah, Schmeckles. Grab Schmeckles by the Schmeckles.
I'm gonna have nightmares tonight about that clown.
Yeah, me and me both.
And the music in the background, amazing.
He lives in my head rent free.
Let me let me say it again. Thank you to all the current viewers who are here. Charlotte, John, Alicia, Spooky, and Christine Kofi. Hi, Christine. Oh, look at that. Pay attention. Thank you so much, all of you. Press like, subscribe. See you next time.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much. See you later.
Bye.
End transmission.
Thank you for watching.